Third up is our sheriff, Officer Sunderland, played by Bruce Davis. I feel like I've got to introduce this pair together. Tony Revolori and Jake Horowitz, who play Remick and Colmar. Almost last but not least, our leading man, Matthew McConaughey. And absolutely last, we got Mr. Cole Sprouse, almost. Finally, for real last, we have our queen bee, Miss Angelina Looking Glass.
Alright, now I wasn't here for the intro, so I didn't get to gush on this film a little bit, so I'm going to take a time to say that I'm a huge fan of Fast Tonight, and so I have been asking for years, every time we open up submissions, what's going on with this film? What's going on with Rivals of Amziah King? What's going on? And this year they finally submitted it, and I had no idea what to expect, and I don't think anyone could have predicted this is the film that you would follow that up with. So I just want to say thank you for making a hell of an unpredictable film in a time when we need more unpredictable films.
All I will say that is the entire goal of this movie, and I hope it's the goal of more movies.
So I guess my first question is just fully how long has this been brewing, and who were the first people that you started to bring it to?
It came to me in 2018. I'd finished The Vast of Night, and I was looking for a follow-up movie. And I thought that one was so dark and so coated in night that I wanted to do something out in the sunlight. And then I wanted to make a story about a young lady that takes the reins of a narrative you don't see coming. And it grew into a larger project for a minute, and then it became shorter again. And that's when I brought in Mr. McConaughey, and he took over from there.
And what were your first conversations together like?
Our first conversations. The first Zoom we had was about 4.5 hours long.
It's getting longer.
I do like to say, I repeat it again, he was in a headband, not that one, he usually has a headband on. He was in a black headband sitting at an antique table with his great-grandmother's clock behind him. And it wasn't all the yeses and things he was agreeing with. As I said earlier, you could tell the man wrote it, and I could tell he had control of the material. It was the stories of what he said no to over the last however many years after Fast Tonight. And you know how attractive it is to find somebody in life or in work that has their own singular vision and has said no to so many temptations and a lot of greenbacks along the way. Something that says this man's gonna do his own thing. He's gonna hold the line, and that sounds like a fun hell of a ride. So everyone.
And while this very much seems like it could only come from one mind, it also seems like a heavily collaborative film. Was that the case?
I think everybody here brought something special. From the way that they read dialogue to the way that they took over music. You gotta understand when you're directing, there's not a lot of time to come in and say, play the song like this, do this exact thing. And every one of these people were ready to go whenever we got to a song, or ready to go whenever we got to a B scene. And so I would say it was heavily collaborative, but mostly I just let it become their movie.
And was it always so heavily musical, or did you find it and add a lot more in the edit along the way?
No, we always had 6 or so live numbers, and we wanted them to be at points that would teach you how to feel a little bit, cue you about that, and hopefully fill you in on how time has passed, and hopefully be something that's used in the plot and used in key scenes. That was always the goal. We wanted a musical without it feeling like the movie stopped for the music.
It's a fantastic use of it. Now, Angelina, you are incredible in this. It falls on you to carry a lot of the film in some very unexpected ways. So can you talk about what you talked to Andrew about on set leading up to it, or your co-stars? What kind of conversations you had once it shifted?
Yeah, it like, you know, I grew up with like all of them, you know, I grew as a person, and yeah, when it shifted, it kind of like when Matthew kind of left set, it like definitely felt like the weight of that movie was on my shoulders. But with everybody that was on set, you know, like Jake, Cole, Rob, everybody, it felt like, you know, they were taking me under their wing, and yeah, it just like everything just kind of flowed pretty nicely.
And beyond Mr. McConaughey here, what was the casting process like? Were there a lot of just surprises along the way for you, Andrew, as you started sending it out to people?
We had the best people want to be in this movie. I had already met most everybody here. I think Rob was somebody I met for the first time for this role. I'd known Tony. Bruce had a wonderful role off screen in my prior film. Jake had been in my prior film and ran around with a, you know, tape recorder in his hand. I met Cole, I think on, you know, Zoom at some point because he was a fan of my film. Matthew was somebody that once he learned that he liked what I worked on and what I made and what I had written, I feel like we connected. He probably maybe knew he was going to do the movie before he even told me, you know, in a few moments. And then we got to working on it, and we got better at it, and we figured out the whole thing. But everybody here, I feel like, brought something I hadn't seen them bring before. And so I'm extraordinarily proud of this cast, and I'm glad that they were willing to trust me to make this kind of film.
I have a few very specific craft questions before I have one that I want everyone to answer. But one of the things that also caught me off guard about this movie is the way that it's edited and the moments that you choose to sort of freeze in time. Can you talk about discovering that along the way?
Absolutely. Discovered it on the night that we shot our first scene of the movie, where Matthew sings the first song. And it felt natural for us to sort of throw back to a different kind of movie, something from another decade. We went with a whole lot of ideas of it feeling like it was supposed to be from the 70s, even though the movie's set more modern than that. And then we played with it a little bit more. My incredible editor, Patrick Smith, who's in the room right now, actually more or less saved my tail from doing too much of anything and trying to keep it kind of grounded. But it started with watching them perform the first scene of the first scene of the movie.
And when it came to rehearsing moments throughout, did you have to cram all the music into one sort of big rehearsal, or were you able to space it out throughout production?
I would love the musical people to answer that.
Space out?
Yeah. We would walk around just playing the instruments. You know, we just have, my man would just have the mandolin just walking around playing it. I'd have my ukulele just walking around playing it. You know, so it was kind of like just a part of just the set. We made it our lifestyle on the set to just walk around with instruments, and that was fun.
It was spaced out. Meaning we didn't get together and shoot all 6 musical numbers at once. Those were live chronologically when we shot the scenes. Some of them went longer and different than we originally intended, in a good way, I think.
A hell of a good way.
You know?
And so, was there a specific musical number that each of you were looking forward to along the way?
Look, for me, it was the one back at the house where introducing Kateri, saying, "No, you know the words. Now you're gonna join the band, bringing her in." And that's Amziah. My character's go from princess to being a queen. Come on, Amziah's got a wonderful way of putting someone right in the middle of the spotlight when they're uncomfortable, but putting the spotlight on them and making them the center of the universe. And that scene, as a lot of people applaud at the time, there's so much love, life, and spirit in that scene. There's not a joke in it, but everyone,
Another incredible thing about this is kind of what you just tapped into, is the sense of spirit throughout the whole film that every character feels so lived in. For the performers, were there specific people that you based things on? Were there locals that you drew from? Like, where did you pull your characters from?
Well, I'm a retired 27-year veteran of the Oklahoma City Police Department. And believe me, we have some characters. I was a detective. I was pulling from a guy named Donnell Matthews, who passed from cancer last year. Yeah, I pulled from those people that I know.
we're getting pranked from behind the screen. Someone said there's bees behind the screen. We're not afraid of them. Cut into the wall. Anybody else want to answer that question? Characters that you pulled from?
Yeah, I mean, some people who I went to high school with, but also Andrew knew a few people like this, I think. And we traded stories for weeks. Yeah, that's how I came up with it.
Yeah, I got one.
I mean, mainly my brother. Just a greasy fish fry cashier, man. That's it. Just a guy that can get you anything you need, if the money's right.
I think, well, like, a lot of what I pulled from was probably my mom. You know, she definitely had that, she definitely reminded me of Kateri, and when I read the script, it kind of just reminded me of my mother, so I definitely pulled from her, and yeah.
And then sort of one last group of questions, we have to wrap it up. Like 10, 15 years from now, when you're looking back on the production of this film, is there a specific day or moment for each of you on set that you're like, I want this to be the first one that I think of? Starting with you, Andrew, let's pass it on down.
I mean, I feel like we captured something extraordinarily special the night that we filmed the kitchen scene with Kateri being taught how to sing. That was a mixture of a lot of things. Number one, Ben wrote an amazing piece of music that fed this movie. And then Matthew came in, and we practiced and we worked on it, but we shot it a number of times, but it was that night where it took off, and Matthew took over and actually, started playing drums again on the table and made it really unique and special and epic in my heart, and that's the one I'll probably always go back and remember.
For me, it's the same. That night was really special. I wrote that song when I was 19, which was a very long time ago. And so one of the cool things for me about this experience is that art does not have a shelf life. We're often told it does. That night, we were gonna do it to a recording, and Andrew was like, like, no, let's do it live. Let's go. And we all kind of got together in the back room, and we're like, we can do this, let's do this. And I think kind of the magic from that moment is from that call. So.
Let's keep it going. Any 10, 15 years from now, what's the first memory you want to have of this?
Oh man, the first memory is that this is literally a full circle dream come true. My very first movie, I was a background extra in this movie called Contact.
Contact is my favorite film of all time. So
Well,
yeah.
bro, I was a background extra, and they allowed background to make some noise, so I ad-libbed my scene. And I told Jodie Foster there was nothing out of space. Don't waste my tax dollar. Get a real job. And so, when I saw it on screen, it just really gave me the ambition to pursue this craft and this career. So 30 years later, I'm opposite this man. And I'm like, man, you know, we're in the car, you know, we just waiting for our say. I'm like, man, you know, I don't mean to be too, you know, intruding, man, but I gotta tell you, you know, 30 years ago, my first movie was Contact. And now, I'm like acting opposite of you as in the same movie. And he's like, yeah, man, you know, 30 years, I've been doing what I've been doing to be here acting with you. Just how he answered it and everything just really elevated me on a whole. I was like, damn, this motherfucker's a movie star. He told me he was basically doing the same shit to get to me 30 years later. And I was like, oh man, so yeah, I will always remember this project.
Well, for me, of course, it's going to be acting with Matthew McConaughey. I sat there in the first scene, and I'm like, this is Matthew McConaughey. And I'm looking at his eye, I'm staring at him. I'm like, oh, damn, I'm staring him down. I'm counting the specks in his blue eyes. And he's talking. And I'm like, what are my lines? I'm staring at this man. I've never stared somebody down so. And then being a detective myself, you know, I'm wanting to give them, I'm wanting to tear Angelina, I'm wanting to tear her. Now you know what you did, but it was fun. You know? I had to really restrain myself, so I'll remember that with her.
Tony?
Well. Yeah. I got a call from Andrew. He goes, "You're cool to shave your head, right?" I have hair as long as he did at this point. I said, "Sure, fuck it." And of course, they ended up still putting a bald cap on me and doing the whole thing. But no, I'm very grateful I got to work with my brother. He's a stunt actor, and he stunt doubled me in that scene, and I'll always remember that. I think I have a photo somewhere of both of us bloodied up and having to shower each other, wash each other's backs, and get all this disgusting blood that sticks on you and makes you orange. So that was a day I'll never forget. So thank you, Andrew. The day I'll also never forget is you shirtless in the river.
Stop it. I think smoking a cigarette, floating on a raft with beehives. And I think I deserve a smoky treat. It's about how it feels to finish a movie. And yeah, that's what I'll remember.
Smoky treat. For me, I think it's I've worked some non-actors before and enjoyed it each time, but I was reminded again working with Angelina. The great thing about working with a non-actor, right, is they only know how to do what we actors sometimes forget to do once we've learned to do what we do, which is just listen and respond honestly. So there was never a take. Angelina could do no wrong. There was not a take that you were like, oh, that's not going to work, because She just listened and responded honestly. And that's something that all of us actors, if we've trained or whatever, that's the first thing to always remember. No matter how much we've learned how to do the craft, that's the original ticket and the one that works all the way through. Listen and respond honestly. Behave. That's it. So that was great to be on the other side with you, doing that from the beginning and throughout.
I was only there for one day. Well, they only offered me $6 million for one day of work. And I said, can we make it 2? And they said, that's way outside our budget. But no, I mean, the one day I was there, I got to work with Ange, and I think for me, I'm like, I started working when I was really, really young, and I've been convinced that there's like this kind of fugue state you enter into when you're a child actor or you're a first-time actor, where you're super, super present, and every project from that very first project you do is this addition to a consciousness that can be good or bad. Am I making sense? Yeah. But I think it was really beautiful to watch you work. And I was only there for a single day, and Andrew, of course, threw 30 pages or whatever it was onto me at once, but I really loved it. I do recall Andrew asking me to speak really fast. I recall Andrew asking me to say the lines as if there were no grammar or punctuation at all, which I think held up in the film. And yeah, that was kind of it.
Every day was my favorite. I got to work with everybody, and it was just really such a great learning experience as an actor. I get to, play off of everybody, and I get to work with Andrew, who, again, like took me under his wing, and, I think I cherished a lot of moments through that whole filming process, and working with Matthew was something that, is a dream, for any person that's going into this field or who, looks up to some prominent actor. And yeah, I just had a lot of fun, and yeah, it was really wonderful.
It's a great note to end on. If you haven't voted yet, pull out your phone to vote for The Rivals of Amziah King. It's a hell of a film. And then go online and start talking about it everywhere. Put it on Letterboxd, IMDb, everything. Support independent cinema like this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.